agami.in, and I'm happy to connect with any of you separately about Agami, and about if you're interested in any of the initiatives, particularly also we can talk about that. Right now, Manav was just we started off with the question that I asked was, I was interested in knowing where are all of you in your journey right now. I know that you did have to sort out the data last week. So what was that experience like? Which is the area that you're focusing on? What are the kind of patterns that you've observed so far? If any of you could share as well. Manav already went. So maybe put your hand up and I can call your name out. Or you can even share how the data sorting process was, because I know that Weber, we had a separate call with all of you to work with you on that too. Anybody? I'll give it a minute and then I might just cold call, guys. I studied in the US where people just cold call. Okay, I'm cold calling Jay. Jay, would you like to share your experience?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So,
Tell me.
so I have categorized my analysis up to 7 uh, ways. Like in first way, I have analyzed through category of crime. So I have noticed the sexual invites were the highest number of crimes which were reported, which was 5 in number. Then stalking, then taking photos, then ogling and spacing, then touching, indecent, chains, and others. And secondly, I have analyzed through gender wise. So male face number of incident registered for male is 3, for female is 5. Then through age wise. So from 1 to 20 age group, no incident registered, and 21 to 37 incident registered, and 31 to 50 one incident registered, and for older age group no incident registered. And through reason wise I also analyzed. So when the reason was gender, so 5 cases reported, and for sexuality and perceived sexuality 2 incidents reported, and when the harasser wanted to intimate the 1 incident reported. Then fifthly, how many incidents are reported to the police when the victim went to the police? So in my case, only 1 incident reported, and 6 incidents haven't reported.
Haven't been reported.
And,
Okay.
and
Which,
6 wise, I have analyzed through time frame. So 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. only 1 incident reported, and 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. 2 incident reported, and 4 p.m. to 12 p.m. 12 a.m. 5 incidents reported. And finally, to the perpetrator gender wise, like what was the defendant was, what the gender defendant was holding. So in almost all the cases, male was the perpetrator.
understood. Understood. And which is the area that your data is being captured or analyzed in, Jay? Like which city and which?
Jamshedpur.
Jamshedpur. Oh, okay. And what are you thinking of any solutions right now to address the trends that you're seeing in your data right now?
I have seen many people don't want their complaints to be reported to the police because they think the police are having a very malpractices and
Mhm.
generally the criminals using their sources, political sources and their like I have seen one case where a son, ASI son, raped a girl and he haven't been caught yet
Hmm.
because of his father. So people having very bad opinion for the police and
Hmm.
the administration.
Hmm.
So they have to work on that.
Understood. So because they have a bad opinion, so are you thinking of how to address that in some way now?
Yes, we can do like we have to make the administration more stricter. We have to establish a monitoring uh, it's a monitoring authority who will monitor all the cases and how they are dealt with. Like
Hmm.
we have monitoring authority, but they are not working properly.
Hmm. Understood. Understood. Yeah, I think maybe today what we can also do is when we are talking about building solutions and what that means, we can kickstart from all the data that you've captured so far and the analysis that you're doing, right? So we can come back to you, Jay, as well, while we're talking about that. One more person. Does anyone want to go, or I'll call? Okay, Bhumi, do you want to go? Bhumi, are you there? Gauri, are you here? Okay, Bhumi, no problem. Oh, Gauri, you're from RDF.
Yes, yes,
Sorry. I just, when you started speaking, I saw your full name.
no problem. Okay.
Uh, Sonali also. Sonali, you're on your phone, but you can speak though, right? Yeah.
Hi, I'm also part of the RDF team. Sorry, I don't think it's mentioned with my name.
No, it's not. It's not.
Sorry.
Sachindra said he's in. Urvashi? Urvashi, are you here? Okay. Jay and Manav, thank you for sharing. I will now share my screen, and basically Manav and Jay, what you both did was look at what was shared rather is that you had the data, and you've since then sorted that data and you've identified a few trends, right? So now what do we do after having analyzed these trends? What does building solutions look like is what we'll talk about today, all of you. So let me just take a second to share my screen, and then I will take us through it. Share screen. Can you all see my screen? Can you see the presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, let me see how to present it. It must be on the right side. Yeah. So, we know that harassment, uh, gender violence in that sense is common. We also know that people don't find it easy and comfortable to go to the police station. They don't find it convenient to report. And even after they report, it's a very painful and a difficult process to go through. At the same time, we also know that, while there is a police and prison system, etc., it doesn't necessarily create a change in the way people are thinking. Prisons, for example, put people in prison, but then there is not necessarily a lot of reform work, rehab work that happens. So it's almost like we are passing the, like right now, the system, we know it's not working for that reason. So if we hear about a case that's reported in the media, we then want there to be, um, we ask for arrest or we ask for punishment, but it doesn't necessarily actually change the way things have been functioning or the way the impact of like violence and aggression, and particularly on people who identify as women or marginalized communities, etc. Right? So we know that this is a problem in that sense, and we know how the existing system is. How do we go from there, and how do we build solutions? What can we do differently are some of the things that we can all explore together in the data that you have and in the solutions that you're going to come up with, right? So and what does a solution look like? A solution can look like anything, right? So if, for example, if someone is uncomfortable with reporting a solution, and if that's what your data is also showing you, then is there a way to make it easy to report to the police if someone is uncomfortable with going through certain questions, etc.? Like, so is there a solution of bringing, like, say, therapists, lawyers, etc. on board? Like, is that the need for an organization like that? If people don't find it comfortable to go to the police system, is there an alternative system that people can go to and they can report, and then that alternative system then helps them and takes care of them? I don't know, these are all solutions that these are all like ideas rather that I'm throwing around for you to explore as you look at the data, you speak to more people, and you speak to the stakeholders, basically. So what is it that we need to do? This is a model that is very common in terms of how do you build a solution and how do you prototype and build a prototype, right? Basically. So you first understand the problem, which is what all of you have been doing as well. You've been looking at the data that already exists. You've been capturing new data. Some of you have already started going out and talking to people in your locality or with organizations in your locality to understand what are the challenges that people who identify as women or women are facing, right? So you're understanding what the problem is. Is it stalking? Is it harassment? Then, okay, if it is stalking and if it is harassment, why are they not able to report it? What is, so you first understand them. You first understand by speaking to them, by looking at the data, and then you figure out what is the problem that you want to focus on. And you can come at it from many perspectives. One perspective is to say, I want to work with the police to sensitize the police, because that is how you define your problem. One solution can be that I want to support people who are like the survivors because they can't go to the police. So I want to create an alternative system. They can come to me. I create this safe space, and then I go work with the police or go talk to the person they accused, etc. Then you're defining the problem as people being uncomfortable with going to the system for support. Or you can say it is lack of awareness. Once you speak to people, they may not know that, oh, this is harassment or this is stalking. Sometimes people don't know that. So if that is how you're defining the problem, then you can say that your solution is to conduct legal awareness programs, legal literacy programs. Or if this problem that you're identifying is people are aware, but they don't know what law supports them, so they need more legal empowerment. So you can then say that is the problem, and I want to empower people, and this is the solution I want to build, right? So, and so the solution that you're arriving at will depend on how you're defining the problem. What is the problem? And that you will understand after you look at the data, after you speak to people on the ground. Then once you figured out what the problem is, right, then you generate ideas. You think, okay, the police is the problem, people are uncomfortable with going to the police, now we have to do something about that. Now ideate, think of all the ideas that you can come up with. Do I sensitize the police? Do I train the police? Do I have like some sort of reporting and accountability mechanisms that build in with the police? Do I create an alternative space that people can first come to me and then they go to the police because people are uncomfortable with police? Whatever else, right? You have to, so you generate your ideas, you try and like think of as many ideas as possible, and that is you ideating from the problem that you've defined. And then prototype. So you've identified, for example, that police need to be sensitized and trained. So then you can see, okay, if I have to do a sensitization program or a training program for the police, if I do it one time, it will not work. It has to be a regularly, it has to be a program where they're regularly trained and sensitized, where they have, because learning never stops. We're all always learning. So how can this be a space that people are always learning and growing from? That kind of prototype is important. And then you're creating it, and then you're experimenting with it, right? So you first say, okay, police have to be sensitized. I will conduct a sensitization program on so and so date from this time to this time. That can be your first prototype. And then you're testing it out. Then you have to again learn from it, right? Which is to say, oh, I did one sensitization, but that one sensitization is not enough to change things. People have to continuously learn. And then you plug in ways for people to continuously learn and continuously be sensitized and learn from each other. Then if that model works, if you identify content and a model that works, then you may be like, how do I now scale this? I can only be in one place in one time. So how can I take it to many police stations or with many cops? Then you can say, I will have a team and I will train my team and I will train them to do that. And then you may think, and once you test that out also, then you may think, oh, that is also not fully scalable because I won't have the resources and the budget to actually manage like 100-member team, 50-member team. That managing itself takes a lot of time then, right? So what is another, like, and so you're going back and empathizing, right? So you're again testing and empathizing. And once you're empathizing, you're figuring out what the problem is and coming up with ideas, prototyping, and then you're testing again. So then you can be like, okay, maybe my idea can be to train the police to be trainers so that more people are then, so I can train 5 police officers in one area. Then those 5 police officers are regularly training the others. That way I don't have to manage a full team and these 5 are taking care. So this is like, I'm basically taking you through one thinking journey so that you can see how when you empathize and you understand a problem, then you figure out what the problem is, then you generate ideas and build a prototype and you test it out, right? It can be the same if it's the women in a locality, right? If it's like in an area where women are not very well educated and they do not know that it's harassment, etc., or if they don't know what their rights are, what the law is, then again, okay, training, you understand them, you figure out what the problem is, then you're ideating, generating ideas as to how to train them, then you prototype it, you build it out, and again keep refining on top of it. So this entire process is a loop, right? Like the work never stops necessarily. It's identifying what is that first thing that we will do, And then how do we build and learn on top of it, basically? And so then how do you understand the problem, right? The first one that we talked about. A lot of you have already been doing that very well, which is you have to immerse yourself in the problem, and you have to empathize with the problem, and then you have to understand the problem, right? So you're immersing yourself by speaking to people, by speaking to organizations, by looking at the data. Now, how much are we able to empathize with that problem, and what are we understanding out of it? And then in that understanding, some of you may understand it as a problem with the police. Some of you may understand it as a problem with the locality. There's something that's missing in the locality. Some of you may think that, we should empower women to speak up more, and that is the challenge. So how you understand the problem will also differ on who you are, what you're seeing, and what the people that you're speaking to. So first, understand the problem. And then once you understand the problem, identify who your target audience is, right? So who are the people? So, Jay is in Jamshedpur, for instance, and Manav is in Calcutta. So understand the people, the situation, the system, and the culture, right? For each of this target audience. So the language will look different, culture will look different, how they approach family. Some of them may be more prone to a joint family system, some a nuclear family system. Some may be comfortable with speaking up, some may not be comfortable with speaking up. So now, while a lot of your research has been to look at the data, I would also suggest whoever have not gone and talked to the women in the locality that you're working with, right, or in the area that you're working with, do that foundational research, speak to the people, the situations, understand the situation, understand why they chose not to. Like, for example, in the data that Jay shared also, there were a lot of people who said that they didn't report. That is what the data is telling us. Now, can we go back to that area and that locality, speak to a few people, understand what held them back from reporting? What is it that they would like to do if not for report? What is the kind of solutions they would like? So understand the people, the situation, the system, and the culture, and that's very important. And then come up with an hypothesis, right? Saying that working with the police will solve is a hypothesis that you have, and then saying that this is the solution I have, that is the solution hypothesis. So it's a sense of what could solve this problem. When I gave the example of the police, training the police, right? So the sense there is, if we train the police, then it will solve the problem because more women will be comfortable reporting them. That is a sense of what you're thinking can solve this problem, basically. So that is solution hypothesis. And then once you have a solution, right? So right now, if I said that training the police is the solution to address the gaps that we're seeing in the data and the challenges, then do research on that solution. Read about it. Have other people done it before? Has it worked? If it hasn't worked, why didn't it work? Then ask the audience, the area that you're working in, right? So if you've identified within Jamshedpur, within Calcutta, if you've identified a particular locality to work in, go speak to the people in that, or go speak to those people. Ask the people around you who've been harassed and who've chosen not to go and complain, right? Will you feel safe if the police are trained like this? And will you then go complain, for instance, right? So do the research, see if someone's already done similar work, and understand from that. Then go speak to the people directly. And then most importantly, watch. So once you're implementing the first step of your solution, right? Like the zero draft almost is the first step of your solution that you're implementing. And then you watch, you observe, is this solution creating the kind of ripple effects that I needed to create? Is it creating a kind of solution? Is it creating a kind of change that I was hoping for? Or is it not creating a change? So that is the read, ask, and watch, like you're learning about the hypothesis. And then you create a prototype immediately, right? You see whether just to get a sense of the immediate solution. If it is to train, for example, then immediately like decide what is it that you want to train on, reach out to a couple of people or a couple of police officers, etc. Or if it is to train women to be more like to empower women and for them to gain the comfort and confidence to speak up, for instance, then what is it that we can do, and immediately like create a solution, right? It doesn't have to be like a full-on app. It doesn't have to be a full course that you're building out. It doesn't have to be a full-fledged organization. No, just something that will give people a sense of what the solution is, just a feeling of what the solution can look like, right? Like an example can be that if it's going to be a content module, right? You don't have to immediately sit and like create the entire content, etc., etc. Just a notebook with even like the title or like what it seeks to cover, what it wants to do, right? Like that itself will give you a sense of what the solution can look like, basically. And that is what you have to then take to people when you're doing your research, when you're talking to people and you're watching how it's received. You then refine it further, you add inputs to it, and then you take it to the next prototype stage. Then you again go back to understanding what the problem is, defining what the problem is, coming up with solutions and improving on top of this, right? And the more you do this, the more you keep doing this cycle, the closer you become, the closer you come to your first minimum viable product. So then the more you do it, then you finally have your first product to put out there and to invite people to participate and to invite people to use your solution then. So so then next prototype is, and so then you know eventually that you are at an MVP. MVP, like I said, is minimum viable product. So the more you build a prototype, then you come to land at, oh, women do feel safer in acknowledging these things. Oh, women do feel safe reporting with my solution. So it can be for a very narrow audience. It can be in a very narrow community as well. But once you prototype, you land at what that MVP looks like, right? And then, so while you're prototyping, you started off with what, giving you a sense of what can solve this problem, right? Now your solution has to be three things. It has to be nuanced. If it's not nuanced, we're not going to speak to the people, right? If your solutions are in English, for instance, and the women in those localities and those areas are not comfortable with English, or if your solution is very tech heavy and people there are not comfortable with technology, then it's not nuanced, basically. So your solution should be nuanced. It should be empowering. It should empower the stakeholders. It should empower the women to want to take action. And it should be generative. So, okay, Kitna came up with one idea and she's implementing that idea. But can this idea also give birth to more ideas? Can this solution be more generative so that other people can also build on top of this and can also get more, can think of other solutions. So that is an evolved solution hypothesis. So the more you do your prototyping, etc., the more you land at a nuanced, empowering, generative solution, basically. And what is very important in all of this is, as you're landing at a solution, as you're defining the problem, you are going to have there is a assumption that you're making, right? The assumption, for example, in again, the police training example, the assumption there is, if I train police, women will feel safer. Then you have to test that assumption. You have to go speak to women, ask them, do you feel safe if I train the police? So that is testing the assumption. So that is all part of the prototype building, solution building process, basically. And yeah, so we are at the end. I will stop screen share. So the whole idea is that you identify a, now that you all have, looked at the data, you've identified a few problems. Now see what is the solution that I would like to propose to address these challenges. Then it can be a where do I, and then how do I test that solution? What are the assumptions that I'm making in this process? There are some leads that I can share with all of you on the WhatsApp group as well. There are some organizations who are doing some work in this space that you can draw from and draw inspiration from as well. So yeah, questions? Jay or Manav, particularly the both of you, because you responded with your data sets as well.
So, ma'am,
Yes, Jay.
I have a problem like how can we communicate with the victims? Like they don't feel free to communicate with us.
That's true. One is you don't have to, I mean, it doesn't have to be with the same people that whose data is there, right? You can even ask your friends and family. You can in the area. You can check if there are organizations who are working with women in your area, and you can go speak to them. You can do a lot of research online, which will also be available. So it doesn't have to be that you have to go speak to the same person whose data you're looking at. Does that answer your question, Jay? Okay.
Hi, just kind of like building on what Jay was trying to say. Many a times what happens is there's a huge communication gap between what you want to say and what these people want to understand. And that comes from both places where we have a bias of not understanding where they're coming from, and they might have a non-peer understanding of us. So like Kirtana said, many a times it is so much better to communicate with them through an agency that's already established themselves in the community. Could be a ground NGO, Jay, for example. Jamshedpur might have a lot of NGOs that are specifically working on areas like these. If not that, in your own area, in your locality, you can identify the community, leaders or community members who are extremely engaging and are more prominently trying to do a work like this. So communicating with them and then having them translate for you or like communicate for you could be like creating a chain, and that chain could have more and more people. Like I'll tell you an example. Okay, in my locality, Kirtana, I wanted to do the same thing, and many people didn't want to speak to me because of the peer differences, and they saw me as a young girl who's coming from a different society, who's trying to teach us something, and the whole bias that they have, and so did I, because I thought that they'll listen to me, but that didn't happen. Now what I did was that I looked at the peer which was engaging, which was trying to engage with me more, and that was the students group, or like the college school kids. Those were the students, that part of the community was someone like a group that could connect with me. So it was very easy for me to speak to them, ask them if they had any queries, ask them what they wanted in their community for them, not looking at the community as a whole as men, women and children, but just focusing on the children part of the community. So maybe Jay, you could do something like that, if not the entire community for that matter, because obviously speaking on a larger level is difficult. Start building from small groups, like just this class, or just this 8th 9th standard kids, or like just pass out graduate students. And maybe a lot of times what happens is like directly speaking to them about sexual offenses could be an issue. So maybe sit down and try to understand what are the issues that they are facing, and then focus on those, and then come up with sexual offenses as a conversation topic, maybe, if that could help.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Vaibhavi. Thank you, Jay. Anyone else? Any questions? You can also type in chat if anyone's in class or something. You can ask any question, like, and if none of it is sitting well, making sense, if you're confused, if you're feeling stuck, any of it, please share.
Ma'am, what actually it is happening is that from my previous meeting which I had with the organization, so this thing only which came into my mind is that the police should be trained in order to get more, what do we say, so that it can be a safer place for women if police are trained. But what is happening, like many of the women who have actually faced it, they say that even though the mayor or the KMC in charge of that particular area has been complained several times about this, but still the authorities do not take any proper action as such. So as per this, what do you think? What is your opinion? Because we have seen that many they have gone to even the mayors or the in charge of a particular constituency or region. So they have even complained to them, like, this is the issues which we are facing, and this is the problems which you are having. But what is happening, they even say that those people don't even take any action, and neither do the police even come and ask them and report this particular thing because of, I don't know, must be any pressure or any conspiracy or something. So what do you, ma'am, what would you like to say in this regard? Like, how can we actually go ahead even though there is a lot of pressure?
So the pressure is for police to not can you clarify what the pressure you're
Yes,
referring to is?
yes, ma'am. Because what is happening? They decided that some of the women, we told them that even if we actually if we guide police or even train police, so will they be able to make a change? So they said that police, what will police do? They had even tried to complain about the matters to the local people and the organizations which are there, the corporation offices. But even after complaining them, they don't come because they have some pressures going on in the area, or if they complain, anything bad will happen to them. What do we say now, anything, what do we call that, dhamki or something? Yeah, that thing which is coming over here.
So they're scared to go report to the police and to follow up with the police or to complain about the police then, correct?
Yes, ma'am, because of must be some local gang of people or something who actually stop them from doing so. I've even seen this particular instance.
Understood. No, I think in fact the solution I think came from Sachinendra in the chat itself, and mine was going to be something similar, which is then the solutions can look at how do we build instance. So can a solution be that there is this thing where in Calcutta, if whoever is going to the police station, like these few police stations, it's like a citizen collected feedback of how the police is functioning, doing, right? And it's fully run by the citizens themselves. And a good experience or a bad experience, the police people could talk about it then. Tanya, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, sorry. So I just wanted to share an example, if I may.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, so that was a great query that you raised, and we face the same issues when we work in communities. So currently, we are working with an NGO in the Khed block in Maharashtra, which is more towards it's like a tribal area, and houses are very far apart. And the issue that was raised recently was there's an alcohol shop, and the owner kind of threatened one of the girls due to some misunderstanding. So much so that they're now scared for their life, and they cannot step out of the house to go, not even go to school or even to the shop. So what do they do about an issue like this? Because if they report to the panchayat or they report to the police, the person would know, right? And obviously they have their own set of friends that would kind of, and they have threatened these people that we will kind of take some kind of action. So what we did was of course, there's lack of awareness on a lot of their rights with regards to safety. Two, they could use platforms like the Safe City platform to report, okay, which is anonymous data. So we trained 5 young girls to be safety champions to go out and talk to people, and just talk to people generally to say what makes you feel unsafe, what places, and then collectively collect that data and then present it to the panchayat and the police. Okay, now again, it's anonymous data, and so the focus is only on the location. And then try and find a solution along with the stakeholders. So similar kind of intervention we did in Pune, in an area called Premnagar, which is near the market yard, which has it's a huge vegetable market. Not only vegetables, it's a huge market there. It's the main market of Pune. And similar kind of incident where citizens kind of got together, they signed a petition, they got the police to come and visit a couple of times because people were not comfortable with reporting to the police. So they build that trust, they build that level of, oh, we can speak to you, we can talk to you, okay. And they raised their issues, and then they took a signed petition to the local MLA as well as the police, and they actually got what they wanted implemented. And some of it is very small quick fixes. They needed a couple of lights in certain areas. They needed a wall in certain areas where which was like the wall was broken and was leading to the market, where the traders would park their vehicles overnight, and that would lead to a lot of kind of harassment and made the area unsafe for girls. So the girls would not use that play area or were not allowed to go there. So these kind of small interventions, which are quick fixes, and it was again anonymous data that they collected, but they went collectively. So, close to 189 kind of signed petitions, as well as these hotspots that were marked on the map. So I hope, something like this can work. I'm sure it can be, customized to certain areas, and you can find localized solutions there.
Yeah. Thank you, Tanya. And I think a lot of those solutions also, as Tanya also shared, is again about empowering the people in the community, right? So if you have 5 safe city champions, and then so your solution can also be that you will identify 5-10 young adults who are keen to work in this area, and you will empower them, and then your solution can also be how you will empower them and how they can work with the community. So it doesn't have to be that you like, one of the key things about a solution is that it's also generative, so that you are generating more leaders in the space, you're generating more ideas to be built on top of the space. So yeah, a generative solution that invites more people to contribute, more people to participate is very, very impactful.
Ma'am,
Yes,
ma'am,
Jeff.
ma'am, you talked about the training of the police. So I have an opinion like, do you think it will be a secondary thing like कि पुलिस ने पहले ही मतलब ट्रेनिंग ले चुकी है, जब उनका मतलब भर्ती हुआ था तो उनको कंपलसरी 1.5
Yeah.
ईयर की ट्रेनिंग दी गई थी,
Yeah.
उनको सारे लॉ बताए गए, उनको हाउ टू डील विद द फीमेल विक्टिम्स वो भी बताया गया, Everything was told, and then you are talking about further training. So will it help kids because they got already training and
Exactly.
they when
Very good question, Jay. In fact, that's a great question. One thing I want to say is please don't be married to the idea that I gave. It was an idea, like, I had 3, 4 ideas in my head, and through the solution while I was presenting, I just stuck to one idea. It doesn't mean that my idea is correct. I am not the person who's looking at the data. I am not the person who's coming and speaking to people in Jamshedpur or Calcutta or Bombay or anywhere else, right? So, in fact, you are, with the solution that I gave, you've identified and you questioned a very good assumption that I made in that solution then, right? That is the kind of assumption challenging that all of you will have to do. So if the police are already being trained, if they already have to go through regular training also, and even some other organizations also do this training, then why is training the answer? Maybe training is not the answer, in fact. So what else can be the answer? So, think of it along those lines then. Please don't be married to the idea that I gave, like it's some great idea in that sense. No, it is just to take you through the thinking process. I gave one, like I just held on to one, but it's not the only solution or even the solution or any of the, it may not even be a solution. Forget being the solution. And again, as Sachinendra said, he gave another great solution in the chat bot, right? Where he said, let's not train them, like, but can we create a peer review can we do a crowdsourced peer review of police officers? Is there a solution like that already exists? What are the learnings from there? How we have Zomato to review restaurants, right? I don't know, I'm thinking out loud as well. Are there implications of it? If I stay in Bangalore, in Langford Road, there are a couple of police stations close to from where I stay. So, if everyone in this group comes together and they're sharing, it's almost like you're building civic engagement that will also influence law and justice. So if I'm having a bad experience with a police officer today, can I can report it on this, and if someone else is having a good experience, they can report it, and once that data is there, maybe we can again, that will also put pressure on the police to perform better, do better. So the solutions needn't lie only in the training. In fact, Jay, very good question, very good. You broke the assumption that my solution was based on, right? Or you not broke it, but you highlighted, you surfaced the assumption rather. So good job.
yes, thank you.
Anyone else, any questions? I didn't think that we would take the full 2 hours also. If nobody has questions, maybe we can end here, and please feel free to write to me if you have any questions. On the WhatsApp group, I'll share a few resources that may give you some ideas for how you want to think about it. That may help with how you're thinking about your solution. If any of you have not gone and spoken to, like, haven't done your survey directly by speaking to people or by speaking to organizations that work with women in your locality, I highly recommend that you do, because I think that is important. Looking at data on a screen is important, but also going and speaking to people, I think, is more important, if not equally important. So yeah.
Just a question, like building on just the holistic experience, how are you guys finding the workshop? How's it coming along for you? The entire challenge, actually. Are you guys finding any difficulties? Is there any way in which we can help you out more? Just let us know, how is the experience of the challenge as of now? Are you finding things that you'd like to write about? Apart from the idea of coming up with the solutions from the challenge, are you finding things that are revelationary for you and your own understanding of issues, that is also something that you could share with us and let us know, right, Kirtana? It'll be really nice to know if the challenge has made progress in your personal life in any sense. Apart from the academic and study based work, if there's anything else that has moved you a little, at least anything that you'd like to share.
Yes, ma'am. We understand about various laws, how laws work, how authorities dealt with such cases, how they make laws, and how people think about the organizations. And we learned how such organizations like Agami and Safe City work, how they collect data, and how they organize and rearrange. So these sessions and workshops are very helpful.
Thank you, Jay. Vaibhavi, shall we end the call here?
Yes. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Kirtana. The masterclass was brilliant. Building solutions is something very, very important, not just with this particular challenge, but in life with anything that you want to take on. And to not just be overwhelmed with so much information, but also step back and work on it step by step is very important. That was what was taught in this masterclass. It was very helpful for me as well. I think a lot of students have taken a lot of from this masterclass and are going to apply it in the challenge right now. And I'm very, very, very excited to see how it turns out. Thank you so much for the masterclass. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sonali. Thank you, Rima. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Rashika.
Thanks,
Sheetal Gauri.
Thanks. See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.